add an event handler to that, role event stopping. You can add another role. You can add your role event handler to that, and that is where you are going to write the code before some graceful exit of your application before stopping it. In terms of changing, so you have this role environment changing event where you can keep. We have seen that code. Like if I want to just trap the topology changes, I can see that using link saying that role environment dot curl role instance, and I can get the if the change is of type topology change, it means my instances has changed. I can do that. If I want to just don't restart it, I can say e cancel equals to true, and it will actually restart my role. So that kind of code you can write in your web role file here once you start the project. That is about events and methods which are available on role lifecycle. We'll see other concept also, but before I go through those concepts, let's run this. So this solution has two roles. One is a web role, one is a worker role. So web role is, and we are using queues here for asynchronous communication for the processing, and I just run this project on the local environment. So the idea here is, how do we establish communication between multiple roles? And here we are using queues to establish that communication. So in the web role, I have an user interface where I can upload a file, an image file, and I can large files I can upload, and I pass that task of converting that image file into thumbnail to worker role, and worker role converts that large image files into a thumbnail, and it sends back and updates the table storage from where the web role is going to read whether I get a new thumbnail or not. If we do it synchronously, so what would happen is web role will keep waiting for that thumb image, the bitmap, the new bitmap, till the time the new bitmap gets created. Web role has to wait, and that is what we don't want. So let us see. The name is demo2. I say hi from demo2, and I'm going to upload a file here. Well, I'll upload a large file on here, and I say modified. Now you see my web role is respondent here. Okay, I'm not waiting for a response to come back because it is a asynchronous communication, and this web role will keep. It has a timer behind it just to check the database if I got a new value of the thumbnail or not. You see this? I got the earlier image got converted to thumbnail, and this conversion has been done by worker role, and it put it into the database Azure storage table from where I'm actually web role is making use of these thumbnails. You see this? So this is an example of asynchronous communication. This project is available under Windows Azure hands-on labs or platform kit, and we are using the same project for explaining the concepts. So this is the idea. Now let us drill down to this application and see how we can make, how we are writing code, how we are accessing queues, how we are accessing blobs, those kind of things. Okay, so I stop this application. Now to begin with, let's go to web role, and I have here my default page. So when I upload the file, okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just uploading that file into the blob container, and then I'm adding a message in the queue. If you see here in the queue storage, I'm getting a guest thumbs as a queue, and I'm adding a message saying that the message will have the blob name, the partition key, and role key, from where it is going to get that blob, update that entry into the table storage. We'll see that one by one. And in the worker role, so the idea here is web role is just getting the file uploaded to blob. It's a large file, and adding a message in the queue saying that I got a large file, please process it. Please convert it into bitmap. Please convert it into thumbnail image. And worker role, there is no direct communication. Web role doesn't have to wait for worker role to complete the process. In the worker role, we are just in the while loop, in the run method, which is infinitely running. We are just reading the message. We're just reading the queue and seeing if I get a message. If I get a message, I break that message and understand where the file is, and I run my method called as converting that into thumbnail blob, and I upload back it to the blob and update the table saying that I updated the thumbnail, and now you can pick it up from the table storage and blob storage. And that is the process. The best example of splitting the task between two things like web role and worker role using queues. Just to make it more clear, I am going to put a sleep here for worker role so that we can see the messages in the queue, and I'm going to use, anyways we are using development storage here, so we can see using our friend Azure Storage Explorer, where are those entries being stored. So here the guestbook entry is a table storage for the data structure, and here you can see the messages which I have put here. So I have two URLs, the photo URL which is being uploaded to the blob, I have that URL, and I have thumbnail URL. So worker role just updates this record, and if you have the thumbnail URL ready, it will put it into blob and update this table entry, and from where web role is actually reading it. All the blobs, guestbook pics are stored here. These are the images. If I want to open it in the table storage, I can see those images being stored here. Like this is a large image which I had uploaded here. For the same image, I have a thumbnail which is being created by worker role, and it's uploaded to blob, and table storage table entry has been updated. We make use of queue. The queue name is guest thumbs, and as of now you would not see any message because every message has been processed. And just to make use of those, what we are doing here is we are just asking our worker role to sleep for 1 minute so that we can see some messages in the queue. So I run it once again. Now this time the worker role will not process messages immediately. It is going to wait for 1 minute so that we can see all the messages available in the queue. So I say demo 3, hi demo 3. I browse, upload another image. I go back demo 4, hi demo 4. And I upload another message here, jellyfish, and I say upload. Now till the time it processes, let's go to queue here using Azure Table Storage and see. So these are the two messages which we added from the web role. And if I see this message, it is nothing but a plain string, okay, which I'm using some delimited values to say that this is the name of my blob, and this is the row key, partition key, where the table entry is all about. And if I go back to table, guestbook entry, I have some records for which, okay, so all these thumbnails and everything is actually being inserted in here, and I have blob. So I just, for some of the images I don't have thumb because thumb images will be created by a worker role itself. So still the messages are in the queue. So after 1 minute we should see the messages went back, and I should see here I got the images created. So that is how the queue web role and worker role work on a queue. So that was idea of this demonstration. We're going to talk about few other tasks, like if you want to develop, if you want to put an internal endpoint, for example for worker role. If I just go to worker role, say properties, you can create endpoints anywhere in web role or worker role. So when I say add endpoint, so input endpoint is actually an external endpoint. Just bear with the name. And an internal endpoint is an internal endpoint which is available only communication between roles. It is not available for external usage. This is how you can define your endpoints, internal endpoints. And you can have the protocol like HTTP or TCP. So generally we had used TCP endpoints in worker role, which communicates with web role. You can add the endpoints here, and you can make use of service channel, service host of WCF to communicate between them. Second thing about local storage. Let us talk about local storage now. Now just imagine when I am creating these images, okay, I just want to keep them in my local storage for temporary availability in a temp folder. In case if there's something goes wrong, I should be able to read it from my local storage. That is the idea, just for this demonstration purpose. So how do I define that? So here in the worker role, I'm going to define an attribute called as local storage, which is available in a service definition file. And I just say local images, and I say clean on recycle because I know it is going to be a temporary files. So no point, I mean, no worry if we recycle this storage. And I'm saying, I just need 1 GB of space for that. So this is how you define your local storage, local images. Now in the worker role, I'll show you the code where we are accessing it. Now here, the method which we are calling from conversion, like here I'm creating a thumbnail in the worker, and here I am calling this method called as save to local. I'm passing the thumbnail and the file name which I got from the blob URL, and here that is how you access your local resource. You say local resource, name of the variable, role environment.local resource, the name of the local resource which you have given. So in the service definition we define it like local images, And then I said thumb.save. This is like bitmap image, and I concate this with the root path. Root path is like a folder path, basic folder path of your local resource, and you just append the file name to it, and you should be able to save this. Now let us debug this, so that we know where it is, how we are going to access it, and whether it really saves the file or not. We're going to see that. In some of the cases where temporary storage, like you want to temporarily create some files, keep it on the VM, you can make use of this local storage, and that is where we are explaining the local storage here. So I said demo 5, I from demo 5, sorry 5. Okay, I upload the file, I say here, and I have put the breakpoint in here, so it should come any point, it should come in here. Okay, so I forgot to took out that sleep time of 1 minute, so I will have to wait for 1 minute before it comes back in here. Now this storage emulator, I will see where we can access this, where we can see these temporary files which it is going to create when we are running it on local development environment. So you go to your this compute storage emulator, and this is the window for that. You can just click on file, you can say open Azure drive folder. It is going to give you the path where all the drive folders will be stored, but we have to go to df temp. This is the path which is being used by Azure emulator. So I go to resources, I go to directory. Okay, I think this is used by worker web role. Now I have to go to find UID, which is like directory, local images. This is the folder local images which we have. Now because every time I said clean on recycle, it was actually not storing any files in here. When I restart my worker role, it was actually clearing this. Now I say this, see this local disk, and then I have this string concate root path file name. So root path, I mean, since it is running on the local emulator, you will see some value here like local path, but when it is actually running on Azure, it is going to have a different path altogether, which is being used by Azure itself. And then I have the file name. And the moment I save it, I'm done, and I should be able to see an image here. You can see this. So this is kind of a temporary image which we have created here in the local storage. And that is how you can make use of it. Okay, 1 minute. I think I have a few questions here. Okay, now fine. So this is how you use local storage. Now another interesting part which we wanted to see about startup tasks. So I have an example here. I have VB6 sample DLL which I want to register, and imagine that I'm making use of this sample DLL into my web role. So how do you register this? So here I have added a folder to my web role so that it goes along with the package. I have added both the files, the actual DLL which I want to deploy, and I'm going to create a command file which is going to install this. So whenever I add this file, make sure to have this copy to output directory copy always, so that it is actually included in the package when you deploy it to Azure for both the files. Register.cmd also, if you go and see, it is copy always and build action is none. So that is how it is. Now in the startup task, I'll see the command. I'll show you the command file. So this is the actual command which we use to register our VB6 DLL. So I say reg sur32exe /s for silent mode, so that it does not pop up a UI, it does not pop up a message, and my web role does not wait for some input from the user, the VM. And this is the short parameter for accessing path in DOS, percentage tilde dp0, and it is going to point to startup task folder, and then I have this actual DLL name, and this is how I register my DLL. So this is my command file. How do I call this command file? So that is where we are having service definition file. So you go to startup tasks, and then you have this setting called as command line. So you say startup task / register com.cmd. This is the file name which we have just configured, and execution context is elevated because I know this registry, the register com DLL is going to take advantage of registry settings. Task type is simple because I want it to get completed first, and then the roles should start, because I'm making use of those DLLs in my role, and that is why I said it task type as simple. Another interesting part here is, if I just by mistake, if I don't have the correct path, and when it tries to deploy it, it is going to give us an error. So that is a good part of it. I mean, we don't have to actually keep thinking about whether this path is going to work or not. So here I have this path. So I repeat task command line, actual command line, startup folder / register com. It is here, startup task register com, and I'm writing, since this is in web role, in service definition I'm creating this task under the web role. You can also make use of your environment variables, like another example, just to save on time I had already put that. So I have command line, same execution context. I want to make use of some environment variables. Like so there are lots of environment variables available. You can create your own also. So this XPath variables, they are given by Windows Azure. You can make use of them. There are lists of it available on MSDN. So here what I'm trying to do here is, so I'm creating a new environment variable called as emulated, and I just want to check, if my application is running on my local machine, I should not be installing this DLL again and again, right? That is what I want to try. So here underneath this startup task, I create an environment variable called as emulated, and I set a value. I read it from XPath, role environment deployment emulated. It returns me true or false. And in my register com, I can just uncomment this and say, if this is how you access environment variable. It's nothing new, right? We have been doing that for 10 years now, 10, 20 years, like DOS commands and all these parameters. So this is how I access my environment variable. Percentage, the name of the environment variable percentage, and I see if it is true, it means it is running in my local environment, local emulated environment, development fabric. So I just don't want to register this again and again. And I exit from the batch file. So this is an example of how you can make use of your environment variables. So and this interesting part is XPath. You can get list of this role instance value, XPath values available on MSDN. So startup tasks are done, internal endpoint done. What else? I think that's all we have today. Let us go back to our presentation and see if, okay. So before we close this presentation, I just wanted to update you on the new things which got updated in Windows Azure queues. So earlier it was possible to have only 8 KB of message in a queue. Now they have increased the size, and now you can add 64 kilobytes of message, like the strings. You have your worker role can treat your invisibility timer. Earlier it was by default set by the Azure, like it was, I think, 5 minutes maximum. But now you can set it to like saying that, I want to make this message invisible for 1 hour, so that your processing is taking 1 hour. That kind of thing you can set it explicitly now before taking, when you actually retrieve the message from the queue. And you can keep renewing that queue message. For example, if you took out a message and said, it should be invisible for 5 minutes. And in the process, while the worker role is processing that message, you figure out that 5 minutes are not enough. You can go back and release that renew that lease, so that you can extend it by 5 more minutes, so that nobody else, no other instance of the worker role sees that message and start processing on it. You can also update the queue messages, which was not possible earlier, and it is very efficient way of continuing a worker failure. Now imagine in a process, if you read a message and there are 10 processes which you are going to execute in the worker role on that same message, like 10 steps. Now at the end of every step, what you can do is you can go and update that message. So you completed step first, step second, step third, step fourth, and the worker role died. So the next time then another worker instance is going to take that queue message, it will start from the 5th stage, because the message contains that information, that state. You can make use of that queue update message functionality in here. Another interesting part is to schedule a work at future time. I mean, you can add a message and say that it should appear only on Tuesday at this time, so that you can kind of make use of this for scheduling your work, which was not possible earlier. I have a quick example of this. So you have web role is putting all the messages in the queue. Current time is 7, so I got this worker role got a message from 5-minute visibility timeout. So now this message should reappear at 7:05. This guy is processing, so it extended the timeout, and now it says it should appear at 7:09. It's just updating the worker message, so that 2 tasks get updated. So next time the message is going to appear is at 7:09. and it updated the message here in here. Now at 7.7, 7.9, you imagine that this worker role failed. Somehow it got crashed. So the next time when worker role another instance takes up the message at the 7.9, when it is going to reappear on the queue, it has these two states maintained in the message so that it can start from the third stage. And that is the beauty of this update message, schedule message, and distributing the tasks.